Micron has already seen a 30% drop, but only got into the upper region of its support zone. Today, I will share with you the path to higher prices so you will understand exactly what we can further expect with the highest probability in the case of this uptrend, as well as the risk, especially in the case of a failure to hold the currently available levels of support. By the end of this video, you will also have a clear picture of the structure that I'm tracking within this correction, as well as when we can start expecting a bottom to be much more likely to be in. Welcome to the trade setup. So, in the case of this stock in the larger time frame, we have been tracking this idea of a wave tree. This can go pretty much uncontested, but we do not really have evidence that a top is in yet. It is possible, as within the wave tree, I am tracking an impulse. An impulse has 5-wave patterns, and if we actually look at the internal structure, we see a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. We have the 5 waves up. Now the question is whether the 5th wave is complete, whether it can see even further extensions, or if an overwhelmingly bullish pattern is actually forming and everyone having fears of the A bubble bursting is wrong. Well, let me get that out of the way instantly. The fear is reasonable. I do believe we are getting close to an end within this extreme rally we have been seeing for the last couple of years. I do believe we are getting quite close to seeing a substantial correction in the case of many stocks, but I am not yet convinced it is the time to expect this to happen. So, in the case of this structure, I am looking at one additional high to form before having a much more clearly complete count in place in the case of this stock, and in the case of even many other stocks. To me, this is the most likely path forward. There sure is the possibility of even further extensions. I could maybe consider this to have been part of an internal wave tree, where even if we have a top within this structure, it could actually see one additional high, as this would have been part still of a very internal wave tree. Yeah, that is a possibility. We could get a 4th and a 5th where the wave 4 doesn't actually need to be that large, in which case the 5th wave to follow could end up being much larger than what we would have in the yellow interpretation. Then it is also possible to look for overwhelmingly bullish scenarios that honestly kind of lack the base of reality, and it would imply that this would be developing a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so on. It would extend higher and higher until we complete a larger 5-wave pattern with an extremely extended wave tree. This to me goes beyond realistic. This to me is rather wishful thinking, and while I do believe in the bull case for Micron, I also believe it necessary for it to form a larger correction before it continues the uptrend. Long term, yes, I am extremely bullish in the case of this stock. In fact, I am looking at this to have indeed been a series of 1-2 setups where we would expect after this wave tree has a top to form a 4th and a 5th for every single one of these 1-2 setups. So I would expect this rally to continue for the foreseeable future, and I'm talking about decades here. So yes, long term, extremely bullish. Short term, maybe not so much, as once we have a top within this supposed blue wave tree, we would expect a correction within the wave 4 that would be similar in proportions, ideally equal or even larger than what we had within this as wave 2. So we would be looking at a correction that could very easily span towards a year and even longer than that. Then assuming a top is in within the blue wave tree, I can actually even provide you the levels of support we would have to consider for the follow-up correction in blue in the wave 4, and they would span between $620 down to $280. A pretty large range. I would expect a flat correction to be the most likely outcome, something like an A, B, C pattern, where within the wave B, we could even see new all-time highs, but it actually doesn't need to, and it could still see pretty deep levels of support to be reached. At that point in time yet, we are still holding the currently available internal levels of support, and the most important level for the correction within the wave 4 is typically the 38.2% retracement, and in this case it sits at $822. Within this wave 4 correction, I am tracking an expanded flat. I am looking at an A, B, C pattern to be currently in development, where we would already be in the very late stages of the wave C, potentially already having a bottom in. Now, with that said, we are currently trading at extremely deep levels, so extending even lower would remain a decently high likelihood at this point. So we go into the smaller time frame. Typically, as I was saying, we would be looking for the 38.2% retracement to be reached. But as within this previous correction, this internal wave 4 within the large wave 3, where I'm tracking a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, we have formed a low at $860. This is often enough a region where the larger degree wave 4 ends up forming a bottom eventually. Doesn't need to be the case, and in fact, based on the internal structure, I might even believe we are rather heading to even lower levels of support, the 38.2% retracement being a very interesting level to me. Now, with that said, we go into the internal structure. As I was saying, we have a wave A down, the wave B formed following the earnings report, and ever since, I believe we could be tracking what seems to be developing a wave C. Well, in the case of this wave C, I have to track a 5-wave pattern. So we can actually even go ahead and label this. And within this wave C, while I am tracking a 5-wave pattern, I am tracking an ending diagonal, which means that each of these subwaves would be rather expected to build only a 3-wave pattern. So within the wave 1, we would have had an ABC pattern, then the wave 3 would have also built an ABC pattern, and now within the 5th wave in white, we are tracking an ABC pattern. And before we head into the smaller time frame, I do want to highlight that I see the possibility that the wave 3 would have topped here, and right now, the structure would be building an ABC pattern, in which case this correction could end up extending for a while longer. I don't believe that to be necessary, so I would rather focus at this point in time on the white scenario where I'm tracking an A, B, C, and within this white wave C, I am looking once again for a 5-wave pattern. Well, based on this, depending on where I consider the wave B to have topped, which could be either here or here to be honest, we would expect more or less further lows. I would have a wave 1 down in the scenario where the wave B would have topped at the high, the wave 2 would have topped here, and this would be the wave 3 down, very, very close to forming a bottom. Then within a 4th and a 5th, we would have a full count within the white wave C. Now, you may be wondering, why would I even consider the wave B to have topped here instead? Why not the top we have within this move up? After all, we do have 3 waves within this interpretation. Well, I do see the scenario where this wave B would have contained an ABC structure, in which case the wave C would have formed a truncation within the wave 5. In this scenario, even though we formed a lower high in this last push, it would have been the actual top, in which case right now we would have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Well, even in this scenario, I do see it possible to form one additional low. I can actually track a double 1, 2 within this initial decline, which would easily allow me to look for even additional lows to form once we have a bottom within this internal wave 5. But that is not absolutely necessary, and often enough within such patterns, when we understand the context where this would be developing a wave 5 within a wave C, within a wave 5, within a large degree wave C, we understand that distortions are possible, and it's not always the case that the patterns deliver a clearly complete count. Now, with that said, right now I believe we are looking for one more low to form internally within this wave 5, and once that is done, the next levels of resistance that I'm tracking, and the most important levels of resistance to probably break, would be for this larger correction within a wave 4. Right now, I cannot give you the exact levels, as I would need the bottom of the wave 3 for that idea, but based on the current lows, those would extend up to $919. If I were to estimate where the wave 3 would bottom, it would likely be within a region where the 50% retracement would end up in line with the previous highs that have formed within this internal wave 4 correction, as the possibility to track that for the 38.2% retracement has already gone past us given the strength of the decline today. So yeah, probably we would be looking for the levels of resistance to extend up to about $915, and a sustained break above that would be our first stronger indication that a bottom could be in, besides having a potentially full count within this larger move down. Now, as a recap, in the case of this stock, and I believe the broader market as well, we could expect to be very, very close to a bottom. I do not necessarily believe that the semiconductor rally is quite over, but I am prepared for one additional high to actually deliver that potentially complete rally within the entire sector. Then in the case of this stock, I am definitely watching the levels between $860 down to $820 especially for a potential bottom to form. This is generally a strong area of support to track for a potential bottom within the wave 4, right? It is covering the structural support that has formed within the internal wave 4 of the large wave 3, and the 38.2% retracement, which is the ideal target for the wave 4. Now, one more thing before we end the video, it is actually something to pay attention to. The proportions of this wave 4 and this wave 2 are not a nice match. It's not always the case that they will be. The wave 4 is the large one in the end, and it is common to get quite extended waves 4 after building such a strong move up within the wave 3. But it's not ideal, and I would rather have you know that. And this is about it when it comes to this stock for now. And if you want even more from me, you can check out the Patreon. And then we actually cover even more stocks that are actually rallying, even at this point in time, even throughout this major decline we see today in the semiconductor sector. But yeah, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. And if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.